All right, let's talk about three little words that cause so much trouble in English. Can, could, and be able to. You know how it is, they all kind of feel the same, but then you use one, especially when you're talking about the past, and something just sounds a little off. Well, don't you worry. Today we are going to crack that code and make it all make perfect sense.
Okay, so right off the bat, let's jump into a puzzle. Take a look at these two sentences. The one on the left says, "My sister could talk at 15 months old." Yeah, sounds totally fine, right? But now look at the one on the right. "The fire was scary, but we could put it out." Now that one is actually wrong. But wait, why? I mean, they both use could to talk about something in the past. There is a secret little rule hiding here, and that's exactly what we're going to uncover.
So to figure out that whole past tense mystery, we've actually got to start with the basics first. Let's just rewind a little and talk about the easy stuff, ability in the present. This is going to give us the solid ground we need before we tackle the tricky part. When we're talking about right now, the present tense, things are, well, they're nice and simple. Your best friend here is the word can. It's what you use for just about any skill or possibility. You know, he can play the guitar. She can speak French. I can see the mountains. It's super common, super direct. No hidden tricks or anything. Easy peasy. Now you might be thinking, what about be able to? You can definitely say, I am able to swim. It means the exact same thing as I can swim. It just sounds a little more formal. And honestly, you don't hear it nearly as much in just, regular chit-chat. So for now, just stick with this. In the present, can is king. We'll see where be able to really shines a little later on. All right, so we've got our foundation. Now, let's get back to that puzzle from the beginning. Let's talk about the past tense. This is where it gets really interesting, and believe it or not, it all comes down to one single, really powerful idea.
Here it is. The whole secret is understanding the difference between a general ability and a specific achievement. So, are we talking about a skill you just had in the past, like something you were generally capable of? Or are we talking about one specific moment, one particular time you actually did something and succeeded? That's the key right there.
So let's give this a catchy name so we can remember it. Let's call it the managed to rule. And here's how it works. If you're talking about a past event and you can swap in the words managed to, then you cannot use could. You have to use was able to or were able to. This is for those one-time successes, those achievements where you didn't just have the skill, you actually used it and pulled it off. And this chart here just lays it all out perfectly. Look, for a general ability in the past, use could. Simple. For a specific achievement, that's when you need was or were able to. But check this out. This is the really cool part. Look at the negative sentences. Couldn't works for everything. You can say, my grandmother couldn't dance, which is general, and he couldn't put out the fire, which is specific. So this whole managed to rule, it only matters for positive sentences. Kind of weird, right? But super useful to know. And here's a perfect example. Even though I'd hurt my leg, I was able to swim back to the boat. See? Swimming back was that specific, difficult, one-time thing. You managed to do it. That's why I was able to swim is the right choice here. If you said I could swim, it would just sound like you were talking about your general swimming skill, not this heroic moment. See? The puzzle is coming together. Okay, so we've got our shiny new managed to rule. It's awesome. It works. Most of the time. But, we're talking about English here, so of course, there's an exception. There's always an exception. Let's get into it. Yup, but there's a catch. And the catch is this. There's a whole group of verbs that just gets a free pass. They basically look at our managed to rule and just walk right past it. With these verbs, you absolutely can use could for specific one-time moments. So what are these magical verbs? Well, they're the verbs of perception. Your senses. Verbs like see, hear, smell, taste, feel, and we can even throw in a couple of mental ones, like understand and remember. For this special little club of verbs, our main rule just goes out the window. Could is totally fine, even when you're talking about a very specific moment in time. Here's a great example. Suddenly, I could hear a noise. Now, hearing that noise was a specific thing that happened at a specific time, right? But because hear is one of our special perception verbs, you can absolutely say, I could hear a noise. You don't have to say, I was able to hear a noise. It's like a special little shortcut that only these verbs get to use. All right, so I think we've pretty much cracked the past tense. But what about other tenses, like the future or more complicated stuff? Well, this is where can and could kind of hit a wall. They're what we call modal verbs, which is a fancy way of saying they're bit limited. They don't have all the different forms that a normal verb does. And this is where be able to comes in and saves the day. Seriously, think of be able to as your ultimate grammar multi-tool. It can do all the jobs can just can't handle. For example, you can't say I will can to talk about the future, right? It just sounds wrong. So you say I will be able to. You can't use can in the present perfect, so instead of some weird combination, you say I have been able to. It fills in all those gaps that can and could leave open.
Here's another perfect one. Let's say you want to use a phrase like, I'd like. You need an infinitive verb after that, like to play or to see. You just can't say, I'd like to can play. It sounds like nonsense. It's just grammatically broken. So what do? You use your multi-tool, I'd like to be able to play. See that? It gives you this amazing flexibility. Okay, let's switch gears for our final point. This one is a little different, a bit more thoughtful. We're going to look at one last way we use could to talk about the past. But this time, it's not about what you did. It's about what was possible. It's about the doors that were open, but that you didn't walk through. So the grammar for this is could have plus the past participle. Words like gone, done, helped. And we use this exact structure to talk about a path we didn't take. It means you had the ability, the opportunity was right there in front of you, but you didn't do it. It's really the language of mischances and what-ifs. And this example just hits you, doesn't it? You could have helped me. Why didn't you? Wow. Notice what's happening here. The person isn't talking about whether the help would have succeeded or failed. They're just saying the opportunity was there, the ability was there, but nothing happened. It's a phrase that can be just loaded with regret or even feel like an accusation. It's all about what was possible, but just didn't happen. So there you have it. We started with the simple everyday can. We figured out the manage to rule for the past. We saw how be able to is our flexible grammar multi-tool, and we looked at the thoughtful power of could have. You honestly have the complete toolkit now. So the only question left is, now that you've cracked the code, what will you be able to do with it? Thanks so much for joining me.